Hey, grade 10s. All right, let's talk about working overtime. So, this next topic is talking essentially about what happens when you or somebody else works more hours in a week than you're scheduled to work. Now, this is an important note to make, so you might want to put it on the side here or something. But this only applies to people who have an hourly wage, right? So, if you work a salaried job like me as a teacher, it doesn't matter how many hours you work, you're going to get paid the same amount at the end of every pay period as long as you get all your work done. However, with overtime, this means essentially that you are an hourly or a wages employee and you are working more than you're supposed to, and so then they're going to compensate you with more money than normal. And so when that happens, when you work more than your full-time amount, that's what overtime is, okay? And when that happens, most employers will pay you what's called time and a half, which means that you're earning 1.5 times your regular hourly wage, okay? So let's take a look here. You can see that I've filled in these boxes for you, so you should do that as well. And I'm just going to go over them quickly. So if your regular pay was $10, then you're going to, earn 1.5 times that amount. So 1.5 is here, 1.5. And so I'm going to multiply those two numbers together, 10 times 1.5, and that gives you $15 per hour. So that means that every time that you work overtime, every hour of that overtime, you're going to earn $15 per hour instead of 10. Okay, so it's actually a pretty good deal for employees, and lots of people like working overtime for that reason, and that is because then they earn more money and they don't have to work necessarily more time. Okay, then the second one is if you earn $30 an hour regularly, then again, to find your overtime, you're going to multiply by 1.5, and that's going to give you $45 an hour. And then last but not least, if you worked, say, worked and earned $55 an hour, then when you multiply that by 1.5, you could earn $82.50 per hour. The last example I particularly included to show you that it doesn't have to work out to these like nice whole numbers like it does in the first two examples. It could end up being a decimal like in the last one. Okay, so in each question in our lesson, we're going to just assume that earning overtime pay means time and a half. Okay, so we're going to be multiplying by 1.5 to find that amount. All right, so let's take a look here. Okay, let's do that one. Okay, so Marcella works at a floral shop and she earns $15.80 per hour. Her employer considers 40 hours to be full-time, and last week she worked 43 hours. So we want to figure out how much she makes in total. Okay, so that's what this is asking for. It's asking for a total money, right? How much does she make? It's asking for total dollars. So first thing we need to do is figure out how much overtime did she work, okay? And so I'm going to use OT to represent overtime, okay? You'll see that through this lesson. And to figure out the overtime, we're going to take the amount of hours that she worked, 43, it's from here, and we're going to subtract the amount that would be considered full-time, which I wrote here is 40, okay? So when I subtract the regular 40 hours from 43, we're going to get 3 hours of overtime. So that means that for 3 hours, she's getting paid time and a half, and for 40 hours, she's getting paid regularly. Okay, so we're going to look at overtime pay. Let's look at regular pay first. Okay, so she gets $15.80 per hour. Oops. And she worked 40 regular hours. Okay, so then again in your calculator, I'm just going to grab mine here. And you're going to type in $15.80 times 40 hours. And that is going to give you a grand total of $632.00. Okay. Then we're looking at overtime pay. So in this case, she worked 3 hours of overtime. Okay, so that's what we know first. But then we have to remember that we're going to do that time and a half pay that we talked about up here. Okay, so we need to take her hourly rate, which is regularly $15.80. We're going to multiply it this time by 1.5, right? That's time and a half. And that is going to tell us her overtime rate, okay? So when we do 15.80 times 1.5, that gives me 23.7, okay? So $23.70 per hour. And then we're going to multiply that amount by 3 hours, okay? And that is going to give us, let's see here, $71.10. Okay, and then our total, I'm just going to do that in a different color so you can keep track of it. That's a nice color. Total is just adding both monies together, right? So we're going to add this amount and this amount together, okay? So we're going to take 632 plus $71.10, and that is going to give us $703.10. Okay, and I would always recommend we write a sentence. I just ran out of room, okay, but you would say that she earned that much, okay? So I guess I kind of did have room for a sentence, actually. Now let's see if I can make that look a little bit better. Nice. Oh dear. That's new. Okay, let's go back here. Perfect. Okay, and there we go. Let's put a box around that sentence. Voila. That's our final answer. Okay, so she earned $703.10. So again, just to review, what did we do here? We looked at how much she worked, which was 43 hours, and we took away the regular amount of hours that she would work in a week to find her overtime hours, and then we used each of those amounts, the regular amount of hours and the overtime hours, to figure out her pay, remembering to, for the overtime hours, multiply by 1.5 to get the overtime rate. Okay, so let's do that again with this example for Natalia, who works at a grocery store. Okay, so Natalia works at a grocery store where 37 hours is considered to be full-time. Okay, key piece of information. Not every workplace has the same amount of hours for full-time. Lots of them do 40, so if you were thinking that, that's true. But some places do have a different amount of hours to be full-time. Okay, so in this case, the grocery store where she works counts 37 hours as full-time. But last week, or 1 week, whatever, a week, she worked 41 hours. Okay, we know her hourly wage, and we want to figure out, again, how much does she earn in total that week. Okay, so we're going to do the same process. We're going to figure out overtime hours by taking the amount that she worked, 41 hours, and subtracting the regular full-time amount, 37. When we do that, we're going to get 4 hours of overtime. Okay, so now again, we're going to start with regular pay. So she worked those 37 hours of regular pay. Whoops. And we are going to multiply that number by her hourly wage, which we see in the question is $11.35 per hour. And when you multiply those two values together, oh goodness, it's going to give you how much she earned for her regular working hours, okay? And that gives me $419.95, okay? And then we need to look at her overtime pay. So again, we know how many overtime hours she worked. We just calculated it. That's 4 hours. And I probably didn't leave myself enough space. Let me write that again. Okay, there we go. So we know that her regular pay is $11.35 per hour, and she is getting overtime pay, so we're going to multiply by 1.5, right? That's time and a half, okay? Now, some of you might be looking at this and thinking, do I have to do this extra step like we did in the first question where we figured out the hourly overtime rate? No, you don't, okay? And so for that reason, this question, I will just do this in my calculator, 11.35 times 1.5 times 4. Okay, so you can feel free to do that if you would like to. So let's try that out. 11.35 times 1.5 times 4. So that gives me $68.10 as her total for those overtime hours. And so now we want to figure out the total, right? So total pay. And we're just going to add those numbers again together. So $419, that looks so bad. Let's try that again. $419.95, so $419.95 plus $68.10 And that gives me a total of $488.05. So we need to, again, finish with a sentence, okay? So she earned, or earns, or no, earned, that's what it said in the question, $488.05. All right, voila. Remember that decimal there. Obviously, that makes a big difference. I know it's hard to see on mine, though. Okay, so there we go. Let's move to the next example. We're going to talk about Grayson here, and then there's an example down at the bottom for you to try. At the end of the video, I'm going to scroll down and just pause the video there so that you can see the answers that I have filled in for that example. Okay, so Grayson, let's talk about him working at summer camp. All right, so Grayson works for an 8-week summer camp, okay? And each week he's working an average of 4 hours of overtime. So his hourly wage for a regular 40-hour work week is this much, $12.65 per hour. We want to know how much he earns over the entire summer, okay? So highlight that if you need to. We're not just talking about 1 week of work. We're going to have to talk about all 8 weeks of work, okay? The other important pieces of information we're going to highlight here is he's working 4 hours of overtime, and he's regularly working a 40-hour week, and he's earning $12.65 an hour. Okay, those are all really important pieces of information. So let's look for, oh boy, there we go, for 1 week. Okay, so if he's working 40 regular hours and 4 overtime. Okay, and so we're going to look at regular pay. We're going to look at overtime pay, just like the other examples, okay? The only difference in this question is that we are going to have to figure out how much it is for the whole summer, so for all 8 weeks, okay? Now, in the other 2 questions we've looked at, we had to subtract to find the number of overtime hours. So if you think back to these 2 examples, they were just giving you like a total number of hours and not telling you specifically how many overtime hours the person worked. But in this case, the example explicitly says that Grayson is working those 4 hours of overtime. So we actually don't need to calculate that because of that, which is really nice, okay? So we're going to look at his regular pay, and we're going to know that it's $12.65 an hour regularly, and he's working 40 hours a week. And so when I do that multiplication, let's see, 40 times 12.65, that's going to give me an even $506. Okay, but we need to also remember the overtime pay is time and a half, right? So we're taking $12.65 and multiplying it by 1.5 to demonstrate time and a half. And then we're going to multiply that by how many overtime hours he worked, which was 4. Okay, so $12.65 times 1.5 times, oh dear, $12.65. My calculator just glitched, sorry about that. Times 1.5 times 4. Okay, that gives me $75.90. Okay, so 1 week's pay. Okay, so 1 week total is going to be $506. Oh my goodness. I wish stores were open, you guys, so I could go buy a new stylus. This is ridiculous. Okay, plus $75.90, and that gives me his total 1 week pay, which turns out to be $581.90. Okay, so $581.90 per week. Now he works the whole summer, which is made up of 8 weeks, right? We looked at that in the examples description, right? It said he works 8 weeks. So we're going to find the total by taking his weekly amount, $581.90, and we're going to multiply that by how many weeks he works, which is, sorry, there we go, by 8 weeks, which is how many weeks he works, right? It says that in the question. And then when we do that, that's going to give us his total pay for the whole summer, which works out to be $4,655.20. Okay, so Grayson, let's do this in another color actually, you guys, so you can see the final answer a little bit more clearly. Sure. Come on, there we go. Okay, so there we go. He earned just over, well, quite a bit actually, over $4,000 in the summer. Okay, so there we go. That's your answer for that question. Now, again, like I'm saying, please pause the video and then scroll down, try it example. So try this example, okay? And then once you're done doing that example, then unpause the video and then I will show you the answer key, okay? Besides that, I hope you guys are doing well. Stay healthy. And I will talk to you soon.